Hey guys, I hope you're all having a great week. This week we did Module 5 online resources. The three that I looked at and kind of liked the most were Brain Pop. I thought that was a pretty creative resource. You'd have to log in and subscribe, but I think that resource would have a lot of information. The only problem is it might take you a little while to get through it, just because there is so much there. So if you know specifically what you're looking for, it might be a little bit easier, but if you're just kind of looking for creative ideas, it might take you a long time. Another resource that I liked was the Kathy Schrock resource. I liked that I could go on there and get input from other teachers and see what they've done and how they've used those different resources that were located on that website. So that one was pretty interesting. And then the next was the OER, the Open Educational Resources. I like those because there seemed to be more sharing and more involvement and better communication between different educators and teachers at different levels and in different situations. So I thought that was kind of interesting, that you could connect with someone from California where the culture is completely different than Midwest Kansas. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way to learn about different methods of teaching and different activities and things that you can do. As far as the QIA, I think that's how you say it, goes, I struggled. It took me forever to figure out how to get things inputted correctly so it looked right, even after watching the tutorial like 3 times. There's just so many different things you can do with it. So I think if you have time and you're working with an age group where those activities are relevant, I think it's a great resource. But for me, where I'm going to be more interested in working with the younger kids, kindergarten to like 3rd grade, I'm not so sure how that resource would go over as far as using like a computer or a laptop or an iPad or something like that. So it would be something I'd have to really work on and work into my lesson plans, I guess. But if I was working with older kids, I think it'd be a really great way to, quiz them and let them do different activities and play on the computer and get introduced to technology and that type of thing. So I think it's a great resource if you have the proper age group, but if you're using it for younger kids, I'm not really sure how well that would go over. So it's probably not something I would use a whole lot. As far as the open educational resources, it was hard finding something that had a lot of content to it. It was hard not finding something that he'd already posted for us to be looking at. I did find something, and inside my discussion board here, let me get to it, was at hewlett.org, and my resource was more about connecting with other teachers and getting their feedback on different ideas and lesson plans, and then also the resources about different grants that the Hewlett Foundation provides for different schools for different technologies, different resources, different apps that they can purchase for their school to use. So it's more of a grant finding kind of resource to get you resources. So I thought that was kind of an interesting aspect too, where you have access to these top-notch programs and things that are probably pretty costly to an entire school, that an entire school can use. So I thought that was pretty beneficial as far as an open educational resource. There was a lot of different links and things that you could use off that resource to get to like the worldwide community of teachers. It isn't just kind of United States based, it's definitely worldwide, and that resource definitely reaches out for the global education. So I thought that was pretty interesting and pretty cool of that resource. I do think that the OERs are extremely beneficial because they are definitely more social based. They're community based. They're definitely open for anyone and everyone to use, and I think that's great not only for teachers but for parents. I know for parents of young kids like myself, I'm always looking for activities for my kids to do and things for them to learn. So if you go on there, you can find those type of things too. So not only great for teachers, but for parents and students also. So I think that OER is definitely going to be an important resource for not just teachers, but for everyone who is wanting to learn something and to become educated. So I think this was a really interesting module, and I definitely learned a lot, and I took away a lot of great resources. So hope you guys have a great week.